Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So welcome everyone to the most auspicious day of Govardhan-pūjā. We're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-18. I'll just recite the verse and then the translation and purport. Hantayam adrir abhila haridasavaryo yad Rama Krishna charanas parasha pramoda manam tanoti sahago ganayostayor yat pani asuya vasakandara kandamule. Translation. Of all the devotees, this Govardhan hill is the best. O my friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram, along with their calves, cows, and cowherd friends, with all kinds of necessities, water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. In this way, the hill offers respects to the Lord. Being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhan hill appears very jubilant. So, purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. It said that this verse is taken from the translation by Srila Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 1834. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the opulence of Govardhan hill as follows. Paniya refers to the fragrant, cool water from the Govardhan waterfalls, which Krishna and Balaram drink and use to wash their feet and mouths. Govardhan also offers other beverages such as honey, mango juice, and pillu juice. Suyavasa indicates durva grass used to make the religious offering of arghya. Govardhan also has grass that is fragrant, soft, and conducive to the strong growth of cows and increased production of milk. Thus, this grass is used for feeding the transcendental herds. Kandara refers to the caves where Krishna, Balaram, and their friends play, sit, and lie down. These caves give pleasure when the weather is too hot or too cold, or when it is raining. Govardhan also features soft roots for eating, jewels for ornamenting the body, flat places for sitting, and lamps and mirrors in the form of smooth stones, glistening water, and other natural substances. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagar Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Vi Sevyamano Smarami. So I first want to ask for blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas and all the senior devotees. They can say something that is pleasing to Krishna and all the devotees, and that will be purifying for all of us. So today is a very auspicious day. We're celebrating the topmost devotee. It is said that Govardhan Hill is Haridasa Varya, the most excellent of all devotees of Krishna. And Govardhan means one who nourishes the cows. Go means cows and Vardhan means to nourish. So Govardhan Hill is nourishing the cows and the cowherd boys, Krishna and all his friends, every day when they're playing. And Govardhan Hill is creating all the facilities for their playful activities and giving them great pleasure. We just read that Govardhan Hill gives them caves that give shelter in hot or cold weather, and delicious drinks and juices and grass that the cows can feed on. That's very soft, so it will create very nourishing milk that the cows will produce. And there's all kinds of roots for eating, all kinds of minerals and jewels that Krishna and the cowherd boys can decorate themselves with. So in every way, Govardhan Hill is constantly serving Krishna. And of course, Krishna would want to reciprocate with Govardhan Hill for his great service by wanting to offer worship to Govardhan Hill. And instead of Lord Indra, when Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men wanted to worship Indra to reciprocate for the fact that Indra provides rainfall, and all their wealth is dependent on rainfall. It's dependent on the crops and agriculture and the cows being nourished. So Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men thought that they should do their customary worship of Lord Indra. But Krishna protested. He couldn't understand why. He actually challenged Nanda Maharaj, asking, where is this coming from? Is this from the scripture, or is it something that we just do as a tradition? And it's interesting that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that one of the things Nanda Maharaj said is that we're worshipping Indra with the materials created by Indra's rain, just the same way that one worships Ganga with water from the Ganges. So that was the point of this worship. But Krishna didn't see the point, and he started preaching all kinds of philosophies to his family. He preached the philosophy of karma mimamsa, which means that everything is actually dependent on our work. There is no superior demigods or demons that are orchestrating everything. What we put in as our work, that's what brings the results. So actually, Lord Indra cannot change the destiny of anyone because it's dependent on the work. And he concluded that actually we should rather worship our work instead of any demigods. And since the cowherd men are Vaishyas, their natural work is cow protection and agriculture, specifically cow protection. So then Krishna said, in order to worship our work in this way, we should worship Govardhan Hill, because Govardhan Hill is actually what's facilitating our work as Vaishyas. making everything possible, all the cow protection and agriculture. According to Sridhar Swami, it said that Krishna presented 6 theoretical points in this chapter to deter the residents of Vrindavan from worshipping Lord Indra. One was that karma alone is sufficient to determine one's destiny, that one's conditioned nature is the supreme controller, that the modes of nature are the supreme controller, that the Supreme Lord is simply a dependent aspect of karma, that he is under the control of karma, and that one's occupation is actual worshipable deity. And it said that Krishna presented these arguments not because he believed them, but because he just wanted to divert the attention away from Lord Indra and focus on Govardhan Hill. And of course, we know that Krishna doesn't just do an activity for one purpose. There's many purposes he accomplishes with one action. So in this pastime, there's at least 2. One is to cut down the pride of Indra, and the second one is to relish the pastime with all his devotees, of having to protect them and having them all be under his shelter, the shelter of Govardhan Hill, all at the same time, simultaneously. He generally doesn't reciprocate with his devotees all at the same time. Usually his parents get to see him in the morning, and then in the afternoon he goes out and he's with the cowherd boys, and his parents are in separation from him. And then he's playing with the cowherd boys, and while he's playing, the gopis are waiting for him. They're in separation. His parents are in separation. And then when he goes back in the evening, he spends time with the gopis, and then the cowherd boys are in separation. So someone is always in separation from Krishna. But in this special pastime of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, he is able to reciprocate with all the residents simultaneously for 7 consecutive days. That means nobody had to be separate from him. They could all relish his association. It said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, by lifting Govardhan Hill, Sri Krishna would thus initiate a blissful annual festival called Govardhana-pūjā, and he would further enjoy the pleasant pastime of dwelling for 7 days beneath the hill with all his loving devotees. So in order to make this pastime happen, Krishna gave the directions on exactly what the cowherd men should do. He said that they should use all the ingredients that they were going to use to worship Indra, and now instead worship Govardhan Hill. He suggested cooking elaborate offerings like cakes, soups, vegetable preparations, milk products, baked and fried goods, and then sumptuously feed the brahmanas and distribute cows and gifts in charity to the brahmanas. It is said that the brahmanas are meant to recite mantras and invoke auspiciousness to the festival. So to reciprocate, they should be treated well and given gifts of cows and charity and sumptuously fed. And then he said, feed everyone, even up to the dog and dog eater. Everyone should be thoroughly distributed, the remnants. And especially the cows, give the cows sufficient grass to feed on. And there should be a huge offering to Govardhan Hill. And he also advised them to decorate themselves for the festivities. And then to go on Govardhan Parikram, to circumambulate the Govardhan Hill. So the residents of Vrindavan carried out everything according to what Krishna had said. And it was a very vibrant, jubilant festival, much like we will have later here today, and celebrated in all our temples around the world. And after the festival, Krishna assumed a huge form himself of a mountain, and he ate all the offerings. It is that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna was like a second mountain standing atop of Govardhan. And by doing this, Krishna convinced the cowherd men that he and Govardhan Hill are identical. And then he proceeded to offer obeisances to himself, to this incarnation of himself, and then led everyone else in offering obeisances. And there's an interesting point made by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He said that Govardhan Hill, Krishna accepting all these offerings, he accepted offerings from both near and far away. He said that there's offerings that were made from as far away as Nandagram. And some of the offerings were seen by all the Vrajvasis. And some offerings were made in meditation, in the mind. And therefore they were invisible. But Krishna could accept everything. He extended his arms in all directions, millions and millions of arms, and was able to accept and reciprocate with the devotees. Of course, having seen this, Indra became very offended. He was proud and wondering, why has my sacrifice stopped so that this mountain can be worshipped by a kid? Why is everyone listening to this kid? So Indra says, these cowherd men have acted inimically toward me by taking shelter of this ordinary human being, Krishna, who thinks himself very wise, but who is simply a foolish, arrogant, over-talkative child. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Sridhar Swami said this is another example of Saraswati Vak, where you can split the Sanskrit in different ways according to the Sandhi, and then the whole verse has a different meaning. So they translated it as Vachalam means one who can speak according to Vedic authority. Balisham means free from pretension, just like a child. Stabda means that he bows down to no one because there is no one for him to offer homage to. Agya means that there is nothing more for him to know because he is omniscient. Pandita Manina means that he is highly honored by the knowers of the absolute truth. And Krishna means he is the supreme absolute truth, whose transcendental form is full of eternity and ecstasy. Martyam means that although he is the absolute truth, he nevertheless appears in this world as a human being out of affection for his devotees. So Indra was unknowingly glorifying Krishna. And Indra continued. Now he's speaking to his Samvartaka clouds of destruction. The prosperity of these people has made them mad with pride, and their arrogance is backed up by Krishna. Now go and remove their pride and bring their animals to destruction. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that there's also Saraswati Vakya, unintended by Indra. And what it actually translates to is, the cowherd men are anointed with sandalwood pulp. You clouds should remove the heat in their bodies with cool rain and refresh the cows, making them tremble in delight. When Krishna lifts Govardhan, you should allow him to make a beautiful place to stay. The word Kshaya means residence as well as destruction. So that's why it can have these two meanings. And Indra says, I will follow you to Vraj, riding on my elephant Airavata and taking with me the swift and powerful wind gods to decimate the cowherd village of Nanda Maharaj. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the real meaning here is, I am also coming, desiring to see the cowherd pastures of Nanda. So then, following Indra's instruction, the Samvartaka clouds attacked the whole village of Vrindavan. There were thunderbolts, there was lightning, there were torrential rains as thick as columns. The cows were totally drenched and trembling in fear and freezing, and the calves were hiding underneath their mother, and the mothers were trying to hide their heads under their own bodies. The earth was submerged in a flood. Everyone was drenched. And then, of course, they only know one person as their shelter, and that's Krishna. So they naturally turned to Krishna for shelter. And Krishna, being all-knowing, immediately knew that it was Indra who had created this. He knew Indra is offended that we didn't worship him. We worship Govardhan Hill. So he decided to curb Indra's pride. He knew that Indra was very proud of his position as the king of heaven. And Krishna understood his identity as the protector and shelter of the whole cowherd community. He said, these are my family, I have to protect them. So he said this, and it said, Lord Krishna, who is Vishnu himself, picked up Govardhan Hill with one hand and held it aloft, just as easily as a child holds up a mushroom. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that With the umbrella of Giriraj, Krishna blocked the Samvartika clouds and created a living space in the form of a house beneath the mountain. Krishna held the mountain without any difficulty, just like a child holding a mushroom. When Krishna was preparing to lift Govardhan hill, a partial expansion of his Yogamaya potency named Samhariki temporarily removed the rain from the sky, so that as Krishna ran very swiftly from the porch of his house to the mountain, neither his turban nor his other garments became wet. So if anyone was wondering why Krishna looks as beautiful as always in all the pictures we see of Govardhan Leela, it's because of his Yogamaya potency that's ensuring he always looks all attractive. Nothing disturbs his dressing. And then he told the residents, now please come and take shelter under Govardhan Hill. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that there's a conversation that happens. Krishna tells them, please comfortably take shelter under Govardhan Hill. And the Vrajvasis replied, but how can our cowherd community, which includes many thousands of cows, calves, bulls, and so on, fit under Govardhan, which is only 3 miles across? Here is the answer. Because Govardhan Hill was in ecstasy, being touched by Krishna's hand, it acquired inconceivable power and even felt the hundreds of deadly thunderbolts thrown upon its back by angry Indra to be offerings of soft, fragrant flowers. At times, Sri Govardhan was not even aware that the thunderbolts were striking. Govardhan expanded his form to 32 miles so that all the inhabitants, cows, buffaloes, and other animals could live comfortably beneath his shelter. In Harivamsa, Sri Krishna himself says, Trailokyam apyutsahate rakshitum kim punarvrajam. Sri Govardhan can give shelter to all the 3 worlds. What to speak of the simple land of Raj? And according to Harivamsa, when Krishna lifted Govardhan, the mountain extended beyond the clouds. The deer, wild hogs, and other animals and birds, standing on the hill's flanks, climbed up to Govardhan's peaks, which were now higher than the clouds, and thus even they did not experience the slightest distress. It is also said that Krishna forgot his hunger and thirst, and he put aside all considerations of his personal pleasure, for the pleasure and protection of his devotees. And he stood there holding up the hill for 7 days as the people of Raj gazed upon him. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, the Vrajvasis forgot about hunger and thirst for 7 days because they were immersed in the ecstatic bliss of seeing Krishna continuously. It is explained in the Vishnu Purana. Sri Krishna held up the mountain while his praises were chanted by the Vrajvasis, all of whom now had the opportunity to dwell together with him and who glanced at him with joyful and amazed eyes. Thus the cowherd men and women were all elated, and out of loving affection, they opened their eyes wide. It should be understood that Krishna stood directly facing everyone. By continuously drinking the nectar of the beauty and sweetness of Krishna, the Vrajvasis felt no hunger, thirst, or fatigue. And Sri Krishna, by seeing the beautiful forms of his beloved gopis, also forgot about eating, drinking, and sleeping. The 7 days of continuous rain from the Samvartika clouds failed to flood the district of Mathura because the Supreme Lord, simply by his supreme willpower, immediately dried up the water as it fell to the ground. So for the Vrajvasis, those 7 days passed just like it was 24 minutes. It's described 1 gatika, which means 24 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. So now we know he's done this activity for 2 reasons, to cut down the pride of Indra and to relish the association of his devotees. So Indra very quickly understood when he saw this exhibition of Krishna's power lifting up the mountain on his left hand. Then he immediately desisted. He told his clouds, okay, stop. He withdrew them. And then the residents of Vrindavan were set free. So Krishna told them, oh, residents, please don't be afraid. Now you may go, continue. So The residents left, and then Krishna carefully put down the hill exactly where it was. And after this, the residents of Vrindavan were so overwhelmed with ecstatic love from having experienced Krishna's association for 7 consecutive days. And therefore, they all came to greet Krishna according to their individual relationships with him. It said that some were embracing him, others were bowing down, and so forth, based on their senior, junior, and equal relationship with Krishna. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that, overwhelmed in love, each of the Vrajvasis approached Krishna according to his position. As an inferior, younger member of the community, as an equal, or as a superior, and they dealt with him accordingly. Krishna's superiors offered auspicious benedictions, lovingly smelled his head, kissed him, massaged his left arm, which held up the mountain, cracked the fingers of his left hand, and inquired with parental affection as to whether he was tired or pained. Krishna's equals laughed or joked with him, and those who were younger fell at his feet, massaged his feet, and so on. And then the wives of the Brahmanas came to offer auspicious items and offerings to Krishna, like yogurt and unbroken grain. They even gave blessings to Krishna. May you subdue the wicked, protect the decent people, give pleasure to your parents, and be enriched with all wealth and opulence. And after this whole experience happened, the demigods were showering flower petals on the residents of Vrindavan, and they sang Krishna's glories, and they were playing musical instruments and dancing. So it was a very festive atmosphere. And even the gopis, who are usually very secretive about their love for Krishna, they usually have to keep it quiet. Now they were openly singing Krishna's glories because it was accepted. Everybody was singing Krishna's glories. It is said that under the hill, Krishna and the gopis were exchanging secret glances. And that's what was keeping them all enthused. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that the gopis had the ability to immediately compose songs about Krishna's pastimes. So right when it happened, they could easily just start singing about what had just happened. And after this, the cowherd men were all trying to understand who is Krishna, as they sometimes do when Krishna exhibits his inconceivable potencies. There's always a time period where people think, who is he really? He's done this magnificent feat, and we just thought he was a boy, but then Yogamaya covers them again to maintain that parental affection. So now the cowherd men were all coming together and discussing what had just happened. And then they were remembering all his previous incidences of killing Putana, killing Trinavarta, killing all the demons at such a young age. And it was inconceivable. And then Nanda Maharaj told them about Garga Muni's prediction of Krishna, what Garga Muni had said, that he's actually an empowered representative of Lord Narayan. They took him, the conclusion from what Garga Muni had said and that whole conversation with them was that Krishna must be empowered by Lord Narayan, which means that Lord Narayan's power had entered Krishna. Not that he was Narayan, but that his power had entered Krishna. So in that way, they maintain their affection by not knowing that Krishna is the source of Lord Narayan. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that at this time, when this conversation was happening with the cowherd men, Lord Krishna was playing in the forest. So when he returned home, everyone encouraged him and decorated him with beautiful yellow garments, necklaces, armlets, earrings, and crowns, and just offering him more and more items. And they said, all glories to the jewel of Vrindavan. So now the next part of this pastime is the shame that Indra felt. Of course, after doing causing such an offense to Krishna, Indra naturally felt ashamed, and then he didn't know what to do. So he approached Lord Brahma and asked for advice, like, how do I make this right with Krishna? And Lord Brahma encouraged him to approach Krishna and basically beg forgiveness. But he told him, take Surabhi with you, because Surabhi is the mother of the cows, and Krishna is very favorably disposed to the cows. He loves the cows. So So that's what Indra did. Now Indra's approaching Krishna not out of pure love. It said that he is approaching Krishna with a little bit of material desire because he doesn't want to be in trouble, right? So he's apologizing because he knows he did something wrong. He doesn't want to be in trouble. So that's his motivation. And of course, Surabhi would help him because her motivation is that she gets to see Krishna. So it's a win-win for everyone. And it said that this Surabhi referenced here is not from the Goloka Vrindavan spiritual world planet. It's the cow planet in the material world. That's by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur. So Surabhi was also motivated by getting the opportunity to see Krishna. And this is really sweet. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur writes that Krishna, at this time when Indra approached him, Krishna was looking at the damage caused to Govardhan. He was at the base of Govardhan hill, and then Indra comes. And Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur writes that Krishna was actually giving him an opportunity to meet in private. He knew that Indra was coming with this intention to beg forgiveness, so he allowed him to do it privately instead of, making him have further humiliation after this incident. It's so compassionate of Krishna that even when you offend him, he still is trying to protect you. So then Indra offered so many prayers immediately. We see in many prayers in the scripture that it always starts with glorifying the Lord. Whenever someone has done something wrong, they first glorify the Lord, then ask for something. Or even just any prayer. You first glorify and then state, what the problem is, and then ask. So Indra was offering many glorifications of Krishna, and with the theme that nothing material can be found in you. There's no material tinges of anything anything about you. So he was in a very submissive and surrendered mood. And after glorifying him, then he admitted his mistake. He admitted his offense and begged for forgiveness from Krishna. And the conversation there that Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur speaks about, and that Kadamba Kanana Maharaj would mention very often in his classes, is that Krishna would say, after Indra apologized, Krishna would say, Indra, how could you do this? You tried to kill the residents of Vrindavan and all the cows. How could you do this? And then Indra says, I was proud. And then Krishna says, yes, but my devotees are meant to curb their pride with their intelligence. And then Indra says, I was angry, so I lost my intelligence. So we know from Bhagavad Gita that is the natural flow. First there's lust, then there's anger, and then frustration, and then memory gets bewildered and intelligence is lost. And then we fall down to the material pool. So if this can happen to Indra, who is the king of heaven, then what chance do we have? We're basically always in the state of being fallen down. But it's interesting that after he said, I was angry, so I lost my intelligence, Krishna he didn't say anything further. He didn't make him feel worse and worse. He didn't go on and harp on about it. He just told him, he didn't say anything, and then he said, okay, now I want you to go back to resume your position as the king of heaven, but do so without false pride, which is very merciful also. And we see that in Srila Prabhupada, that whenever people would make mistakes, he wouldn't take away their position or anything. Even if they were in very great positions, he would still allow them to continue, and after they admit and beg forgiveness. That's the quality of Krishna. So at this point, Indra, having his pride subdued, he had an opportunity to subdue his pride even further, because now Surabhi was there, and she asked Krishna, she wanted to speak to Krishna also. So she glorified Krishna and then told him that actually he is the real Indra. He is the one who protects the cows and maintains the cows and takes care of everyone. So, and she had previously experienced, there was an Indra, the previous Indra, who was trying to kill all the cows and all the residents. So Surabhi knows about who a real shelter is. the Surabhika here is saying Krishna is the shelter, and therefore now she wants to coronate Krishna as the real Indra. And so then she decides now she's going to coronate him. She's going to bathe him in her own milk. And Indra then also offered the water from Airavata, which is from the Ganges, which Airavata keeps in his trunk. So then they were bathing Krishna with this milk and water and creating this whole coronation ceremony of celebrating Krishna as the actual Indra. So this is where Indra's pride had to be further cut down, because now he himself is actually, in essence, giving up his position, or knowing that knowing his true position as a servant of the real Indra, the real controller and maintainer, and the protector of Brahmanical culture and the cows. So when this happened, then Indra named Krishna Govinda. That's one of the pastimes where Krishna gets the name Govinda, which means one who gives pleasure to the cows and the senses. So it's really special for us here because we worship Sri Radha Govinda. It's nice to meditate on the fact that this is where Govinda gets his name from being one who gives pleasure to the cows and the senses. Of course, here in New York, I feel like we don't have so many cows, but we have constant disturbance to our senses, just being outside. And here we have such great shelter from Radha Govinda that they're giving so much happiness to our senses that we can direct our senses to them and not waste it on any mundane activity. And after this bathing ceremony and coronating Krishna as the original Indra, all the animals gave up their animosity to each other and actually became friends, even like wild animals. So that's amazing. So there's various lessons that we can learn from this pastime. One is that Govardhan Hill is Haridasa Varya, the topmost servant, but we worship Govardhan as Krishna himself. We worship him as God, but we understand how to serve God from him. He's giving us the example of how to serve Krishna. Just like Lord Chaitanya, just like Balaram, who is Krishna himself, but who is the Sevak Bhagavan, the one who is always serving and creating all facility and arrangements for Krishna's happiness. In the same way, Govardhan is doing the same thing. And this festival also has the theme of community. That's what Govardhan Hill is about. That's what Govardhana-pūjā is about. It's about everyone coming together to serve Krishna. And it's done very jubilantly and vibrantly. And the peak of it is when everyone as a community gets to be under Govardhan Hill and reciprocate with Krishna all together at the same time. And another point that we can note is how Govardhan gives shelter to everyone. So it said that Govardhan expanded just from being ecstatic by the touch of Krishna, that he expanded his size to be able to accommodate every kind of person. And I know Kadambakanana Maharaj would say sometimes that we need to be like that in our Krishna consciousness society. We need to be able to accommodate every kind of person, we need to be able to provide shelter to every kind of person in some way or another, because everybody is included. Govardhan doesn't exclude anyone. And in the same way, in Krishna consciousness, we cannot exclude anyone. And I feel a very practical lesson we can learn from this pastime is about forgiveness and correction. We can see how Indra, being reflective, immediately understood his mistake and then decided that he needs to make it right. That's certainly better than most of us when we do something wrong, and most of the time we don't even identify we've done something wrong. Or even if we do identify something wrong, we don't want to make it right. We just leave it because we have so much pride that we can't go and actually apologize, beg forgiveness or anything. We just want to, just forget about it. But Indra here is he's, as much as he made a really grave mistake, he's being a good example by trying to make it right, by understanding he's done something wrong and trying to make it right. And in the process of trying to make it right, by going and begging forgiveness, Krishna also shows a good example of how to actually be forgiving. He didn't harp on about it for years, go on, making Indra feel worse and worse and worse about this incident. He could see Indra's come forward. He feels bad about what he's done. He's asking for forgiveness. So Krishna had a brief discussion with him, but then when he understood Indra was angry, so he lost his intelligence, what else could he say? He just forgave him. And that's a very big lesson for all of us, because there's so many opportunities for us to firstly commit offenses, and then so many opportunities for us to have offenses committed to us. And it's a nice lesson for us in our dealings with each other that when we commit offenses, we should beg forgiveness. And then when others have committed offenses to us, if they're coming forward and understanding they've done something, then we should not be difficult about it. We should not be like saying, oh, I'll never forgive this person, and create and continue the animosity, because there's really nothing one can do after that. If we've identified we've done something wrong, there's really nothing to do further than begging for forgiveness and trying to serve the devotee. So it also shows us, like the Vaishnavas, it said that Vaishnavas are forgiving. The topmost quality of the Brahmana is forgiveness. And it's so difficult. But if we understand that like Krishna was so easily forgiving that he could reinstate him also. He didn't just forgive him and keep a distance, like what we may do sometimes. Like we may forgive someone, but like just keep a distance, like a respectful distance from them. But Krishna reinstated him in his position. So a very high example of what forgiveness truly means. And it's something that we can all definitely learn from. I'm not saying that we have to always re-involve ourselves with people if they've committed offenses, and if it's been very grave, that can be judged by like time, place, and circumstance. But the point of actually forgiving and not holding it in our hearts that this person has done something wrong to me, so I'll never forgive them, So there's various lessons to learn. That one was the most practical one for me. And also the shelter part about making space, basically making space for any kind of person, to include everyone in Krishna consciousness, the way Govardhan Hill does. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, verse 26, chapter 26, verse 25, it said, Indra became angry when his sacrifice was disrupted, and thus he caused rain and hail to fall on Gokul, accompanied by lightning and powerful winds, all of which brought great suffering to the cowherds, animals, and women there. When Lord Krishna, who is by nature always compassionate, saw the condition of those who had only him as their shelter, he smiled broadly and lifted Govardhan Hill with one hand, just as a small child picks up a mushroom to play with it. Holding up the hill, he protected the cowherd community. May he, Govinda, the lord of the cows and the destroyer of Indra's false pride, be pleased with us. And in the purport, it said, certainly anyone who soberly and objectively considers the activities of young Krishna will surrender to him and become his eternal devotee in loving devotional service. That is the rational conclusion one should come to after reading this chapter. So I hope that after discussing this pastime, we all can come to this conclusion of surrendering to Krishna and becoming his eternal devotee. There's also many other amazing pastimes that occurred at Govardhan Hill more recently. In the time of Lord Chaitanya specifically, there's the pastime of Madhavendra Puri, and how when he was at Govardhan Hill, he had a dream where this deity of Gopal came into his dream and told him that I'm hidden somewhere in the forest. So what happened is, when the Muslims were attacking the temples in Vrindavan, many deities were misplaced, taken to different places, or hid underground for shelter. So this Gopal deity came to Madhavendra Puri and told him that he's in the forest somewhere and that he wants to come out. So Madhavendra Puri went to that exact place that the deity told him he would be at, and then excavated it and found the deity, and then established the worship of Gopal right at the top of Govardhan hill. Then later, that same Gopal deity came into Madhavendra Puri's dream and told him that he wants sandalwood pulp to be collected from Jagannath Puri. And then Madhavendra Puri went on that long journey to Jagannath Puri. And on the way, he was in Ramuna, and that's when he saw the deity of Gopinath. And this deity also, there were so many deities coming in dreams in this pastime. So this deity, because Madhavendra Puri saw the offering that was being made to Gopinath, which was condensed milk, and then he actually desired it, but then he thought, no, this is offensive. I'm actually wanting the offering before it's even offered to Gopinath. So then he, just left the place. But Gopinath, understanding his desire, hid one of the pots of condensed milk for him and told the pujari in his dream that this pot, there's a pot of condensed milk saved for a devotee named Madhavendra Puri. And then the pujari went out looking for Madhavendra Puri and found him and gave him the pot of condensed milk. So then Madhavendra Puri continued his journey, and Gopal came back into his dream and said that actually if you just apply this, he continued his journey to Jagannath Puri and got the sandalwood. And then this is when Gopal came into his dream and said, if you apply the sandalwood to the Gopinath deity in Ramuna, then I'll be satisfied. Making the connection between Gopal and Gopinath, that they're non-different. So then he didn't have to take the sandalwood all the way back to Govardhan hill. He could just apply it to the deity in Ramuna. And so that is a very magical pastime that happened at Govardhan hill. And then there's also when Lord Chaitanya went to Govardhan hill, what happened there? He fell on the floor, ecstatic, and he embraced the hill, and he was just crying, He desired to see this exact same Gopal deity established by Madhavendra Puri at the top of Govardhan hill. But he knew that it's offensive to actually walk on Govardhan hill, to climb up. Of course, he wasn't considering himself the Lord. He was acting in the mood of a devotee and giving us the example. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the only time we can climb on top of Govardhan hill is if we are in Sakyaras, is if we have the relationship of friendship with Krishna. Because the cowherd boys are always climbing on Krishna and climbing on each other, so then it's okay. But otherwise, we're not allowed to climb on Govardhan hill. So he didn't want to climb up, but Gopal, understanding his desire to be seen by Lord Chaitanya, he made an arrangement to come down so that Lord Chaitanya will have his darshan. Someone came to the temple and said, oh, they're coming to attack, the Muslims are coming to attack the temple. Flee, everyone should flee this place and take the deity with you. So they removed the deity from the top of Govardhan hill and moved him to different places. And then at one point, this deity was at Gantuli Gram. So Lord Chaitanya went there and got to take darshan of the same Gopal deity. And he said, may the left arm of Sri Krishna, whose eyes are like the petals of a lotus flower, always protect you. With his left arm, he raised Govardhan hill as if it were a toy. And this is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then later on, in Lord Chaitanya's life, there's the story of when he actually received his own Govardhan Shila. It came from Sankarananda Saraswati, who arrived at Jagannath Puri from Vrindavan, and he presented Lord Chaitanya with a Govardhan Shila and Gunja Malas. And Lord Chaitanya would worship every single day this Govardhan Shila with his tears. And he was extremely happy. He would take the garland and put it around his neck. He would put the stone to his heart or sometimes to his eyes. Sometimes he would smell it with his nose and sometimes place it on his head. It said that the stone from Govardhan was always moist with tears from Lord Chaitanya's eyes. And Lord Chaitanya said, this stone is directly the body of Krishna. So he worshipped this Govardhan Shila for 3 years. And then, greatly satisfied with the behavior of Raghunath Das Goswami, he gave him the Govardhan Shila and the Gunjamala. And he instructed him, this stone is the transcendental form of Lord Krishna. Worship the stone with great eagerness. Worship the stone in the mode of goodness, like a perfect Brahmana. For by such worship, you will surely attain ecstatic love of Krishna without delay. For such worship, one needs a jug of water and a few flowers from a tulsi tree. This is worship in complete goodness when performed in complete purity. With faith and love, you should offer 8 soft tulsi flowers, each with 2 tulsi leaves, one on each side of each flower. So after he advised him how to worship, Lord Chaitanya offered him the Govardhan Shila with his hand. And then Raghunath Das Goswami carried out the worship in great transcendental jubilation, it is said. And it said, thus Raghunath Das began worshipping the stone from Govardhan, and as he worshipped, he saw the personality of Godhead Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, in the stone. And thinking of how he had received the Govardhan Shila directly from the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunath Das was always overflooded with ecstatic love. The amount of transcendental bliss that Raghunath Das enjoyed simply by offering water and tulsi is impossible to achieve, even if one worships the deity with 16 kinds of paraphernalia. By offering me the Govardhan Shila, Raghunath Das Goswami is now saying, by offering me the Govardhan Shila, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has offered me a place near Govardhan Hill. And by offering me the garland of conch shells, he has offered me shelter at the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. So we can also meditate on this, that because we have Govardhan Hill here, we are actually also, by the mercy of the devotees, we've also received residence at a place near Govardhan Hill in this temple and in all our temples all over the world. So we can celebrate just as they do in Vrindavan on this day, as we will be celebrating later today, the glories of Govardhan Hill and this exact pastime of the Annakut festival, of making great offerings. And we have Nityananda Chandra Prabhu here, who's involved with the hill setup. So we're very excited about the festival later on. So I'll end there, and that everybody can get on with their services of arranging for the festival. Hare Krishna. Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Giri Govardhan ki jai.